real estate broker, I get asked regularly, where can I find passive real estate income? And I'm an investor myself in different things, but everybody has their own formula, their own needs, their own program, and their own path to get there. And I'm really excited to introduce to you Flip and Dani from Freedom Family Investments. They're going to be guests at the LA Grind Expo in October, and I had a nice conversation with them recently and wanted to share that with you guys. Hey, Flip and Dani, how you guys doing?
We are doing great. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks.
And which one's Flip and which one's Dani?
That one's Flip.
Okay, so the smart one's Dani. Got it. Okay, good. The brains.
You are
Okay.
100% correct.
Okay, so Dani's the brains and Flip is just the boy toy for the eye candy.
I am the arm candy. That's correct.
Okay, so tell me a bit about Freedom Family Investments. I know you guys have an active fundraiser you guys are doing right now, but what kind of things are you guys doing?
Yeah, so Freedom Family Investments really focuses on passive investing because of our path and the journey that we've been on our road to freedom. That's why we are so, in love with the passive side as opposed to the active side, even though we can tell many stories about the active. So we specialize in turnkey real estate properties, as you can see here, and we also specialize in funds and syndications. So I would say turnkey real estate is like that middle of the road between active and passive. You're still going to be talking to your property manager. You're going to still be analyzing financial statements, making some decisions. Funds and syndications, on the other hand, we did a video that was something like spend 4 hours and then you build it's like you get paid $4,000 an hour or something because you just have to review the deal, right? Be comfortable with it, ask whatever questions you have, wire your funds, and it's truly passive income coming to you every quarter, or depends on how the distributions work.
Got it. So there's really two angles we're going to talk about. One's passive and one is turnkey. What's the difference? I think I know the answer, but I'm sure people are asking, what's the difference between passive income and turnkey rentals?
Absolutely. I'll let Flip talk about turnkey rentals.
Yeah, so the turnkey rentals, the way it's set up is it's set up to almost be passive, but it's not completely passive. So we buy the property, we renovate it, we put a tenant in there, and then we set up property management, and then we sell that as a package. The buyer, the investor, when they have that, it's not completely passive because they still have their monthly reports from the property management company. They still get the phone calls from the property management company if something goes wrong, or the tenant leaves, or the tenant destroyed the property, or whatever the case. So it's not completely passive. I like to call it passively active because it's a combination of both, but it's definitely more active than the funds and syndications.
Well, for somebody looking to get into this, you're bringing the property, you're getting it rehabbed or ready for the rental market, you're getting it rented up, you're connecting a property manager to the property.
That's right.
And so from then on, they're kind of on their own. But that's a good way to start, in that you've got some of the pieces taken care of. Critical piece you have to learn about is how to continue that property going forward from there. Obviously, you can't do these in every market because it has to make sense cash flow. So where do you do turnkey rental properties today?
Well, our offices are based out of Dayton, Ohio, and so we're in the Dayton and Cincinnati, Ohio market. That is where all of our turnkey properties are. And you're right. We went to Dayton because it's all about cash flow. When we're talking to people on the phone, we say, hey, here in Ohio, appreciation is the icing on the cake. Let's just focus and count on the cash flow. Those are the numbers you want to evaluate, and all the rest is gravy. So we really love that market, and any Midwest, Southeast market that gives you those high cash flow numbers.
What percentage of the people who invest in your turnkeys actually go to Dayton or the related area and search the property out, or how many of them can actually buy it remotely?
That's going to be probably close to 5% actually come to Dayton. I think most people, especially in today's day and age, they just jump on Google Maps and drive up and down the street to see the neighborhood. I know we had one lady, she was in Idaho. She's never been to Ohio, and she had a number of properties with us. And she would just get in Google Maps and go up and down the street to, I love the neighborhood. And so
wow.
Very, very few do, but we do occasionally get an investor that'll come into town just to see the area that's not familiar with the I guess I call it the white collar area of Middletown, Ohio, and or blue collar actually, and Dayton and Cincinnati, because it's different than other areas of the country.
It is. I've been to Ohio. I've been to Toledo. I've been to Cleveland. I've been in between, and it is a different part of the country than where I'm from, Los Angeles. And so as a result, the numbers are different. Just real quick, some housekeeping while we're here. This is the official podcast of the LA County Real Estate Investors Association. We do this podcast every Tuesday at 3 p.m. and we live stream it onto YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you're watching it live, feel free to jump in and watch in the comment section. If you watch after the fact, feel free to put questions in, and either I'll answer them or I'll route them to Flip and or Dani as appropriate. Probably to Dani because I think she's the brains of the team. But either way, we host a live meeting every second Thursday of the month. We had it last week in the Iman Center in the Culver City area. And then October 21st, we're having our big LA Grand Expo. That's a Saturday, October 21st, 9 to 6. And among the speakers will be Flip and Dani on their programs. If you want a chance to meet them and learn more about their turnkey programs or the passive income, it's a free event all day long. They're one of the speakers. In fact, they're there right there in the bottom right. So they'll be, I don't know why in the bottom. You guys should be up front. You should be in the center. Anyhow, they'll be speaking as well as you have booths there, and there'll be about 70 other booths as well to learn about the business. So if you're looking to get started or looking to build your business, great opportunity in one day to meet a lot of people, learn a lot about it. So that's the turnkey part. And so typically a turnkey property, somebody's going to buy, how you had some examples here, $142,000, $140,000. So imagine somebody's buying this property, they're putting down 20, 30% plus closing costs. Is that the pretty typical format?
Yes.
And then they're getting a monthly check that pays the mortgage and taxes and property management and maybe some sort of reserve fund, and they're getting money past that over time. Is that how that works?
That is how that works, yes.
And so do you present kind of a history of what kind of returns people expect from those properties, or how do you present that as an opportunity to people?
We do create a pro forma, and it's really projections. Something that we've changed since the course of doing turnkey is we would even estimate the rent, right? We put together all of the information that we have on the property and our expected, vacancy rates, maintenance expenses, things like that. We would plug and play all of that information, and then we'd say, we think we're going to get, let's just say, $1,200 a month in rent or $800 a month in rent. And we would close on the property prior to renting the property. We actually changed it for the reason that we wanted a more accurate pro forma, right? So we wanted to actually rent the properties, prove that we were going to be able to get the rent that we were estimating right up front, because sometimes we were able to get higher, sometimes we were able to get lower. And that just caused a little bit for us. We didn't feel like we were setting the proper expectations, by saying, hey, this is what we're thinking. This is our market. We really think we know what we're talking about. And we're just very transparent and always saying, hey, give us all the critique you can so that we can better ourselves. And this is one of the pieces that we did. So that's our pro forma will list everything, including what the rented price is. And then we have things like instant cash flow, where even if it's not rented, now we're paying the rent. We just created some different things so that our pro formas could be as true and accurate as we could make them.
So on your website, for example, you have a property. I'm looking at 421 Yankee Road in Middleton, which I imagine is near Dayton or in the area. And this property is sold for $142,900. Does that mean you closed on it at that price, or that's what somebody's buying it from you at?
That is what somebody's buying it from us are. Yeah, so it says pending, so that means it's under contract at $142,900.
And then they would get a loan. Do you have a list of approved lenders they can use, should use, have to use, or how does that work?
It's never have to use. Anybody can use any lender that they want. We do have lenders that we give them if they would like recommendations. And they're lenders that we've worked with over the years, and they've just proven to be fantastic at what they do. Because what frustrates, I think, everybody, including the buyer, is getting all the way to the finish line and then the loan doesn't close. We do provide recommendations, but it's ultimately the buyer's choice.
Got it. And so this is rented for $1,400 a month. Somebody buying this cash flow, is this after all the expenses, after the mortgage and property taxes and property management? This would be the net return of about 3%?
Yes, and the way that they, and I'm more than positive, because the way they set up the pro formas now, it's based upon somebody getting a loan. Years ago, we used to do, because years ago the properties were about $40,000 or $60,000 less. We would always do our pro formas based upon cash buyers.
Right.
But now that most of our properties have gone above $100,000, which I know for you that may be astronomical anyway, But now that they've gone a little higher, now we don't do our performance based upon cash sales. We do it based upon someone actually putting the 20% down and getting a loan.
Got it. Okay, great. So and so a product like this, on one hand, it's only 3% on the $142,000, but in reality, you're really only investing, let's say, 20 or 30% down plus closing costs. So somebody getting this property might be getting into it for $50,000 total, and they're going to get almost $5,000 a month back. So those returns are better when you consider the financing, I guess, net bottom line. So very interesting process. Okay, so that's the turnkeys, and then separate from the turnkeys, you have the funds. So talk a little bit about your investment funds and what you're doing in that area.
Absolutely. So we created our first fund at the request of our private lenders. So when we started, we only used private lenders, meaning if we had a property, we would send you, Bill, the investor packet that said, here's the purchase price of the property, here's our estimated rehab. Would you like to be a private lender on this? And you'd look and review it, ask any questions, say yes or no. And we've never, no, once we've had somebody say no. And when I was doing it, it was on a duplex, and it's very rare to find multifamily in the Ohio area. So they just didn't understand the numbers and the comps. So you say yes, you wire the funds to the title company, we close, we do the rehab, we sell the property, we at payoff, we show you a closing statement that says, Bill, this is how much we borrowed from you, this is how much interest that we owe, and so here's how much you were receiving on closing statement. They sign that, we send it over to the title company, and that's what they get back as soon as we close. And then we say, hey, Bill, are you interested in doing that again? And so we'd send you a new property, and we just continue that cycle. Our very first fund was created because some of our private lenders were saying, Dani, we love you, we trust you, this is great, but we want to be more hands off. Can we just give you the funds and you can keep rolling them into properties? Legally, we could not do that in a private lender situation. They had to get that money back. They had to sign a release of mortgage. So the first thing that we did was we talked to an attorney and created what we call a master note program. And that was an easy way for our lenders to say exactly what they wanted. Here, we're going to give you the funds. We have a separate bank account where we put those funds in, and we would just roll the funds going in and out of our deals. And we just paid them quarterly interest. That program was such a hit that it turned into our very first official fund, where we allowed all of our private lenders the option to be able to put their money into a fund where their money could be working for them 24/7 instead of going in and out of the deals. So it's been such a hit that we have now started creating more funds based on the feedback we're getting from our investors.
And so you say more funds. Are the funds for more areas or different types of products, or how are you differentiating the funds that you're creating?
Yeah, so instead of a fund that is just lending to us, now we have a fund that is not only going to lend to us, it's also going to lend to others. The same underwriting that we're doing for our own deals, we can do for others. That allows for us to be able to raise more capital. And then also apartment buildings. We're buying apartments. And so for the rehab of those apartments, then we can use those funds for that as well. So there's different things that we're being able to do with it. That allows us to be able to pay a higher interest, and it gives more diversification for the investors inside the fund.
Are your investment funds for accredited investors only, or do you take funds from non-accredited investors? And how does that work?
Yeah, so currently we do have a 506B, which is for non-accredited investors up to 35, but we have to have a relationship with them prior to them investing. So the new fund that we are launching probably in the next 2 months is meant to replace this fund because our raise time is over. It is going to be a 506C. And to your point, Bill, means that it is only for accredited investors. So what we're doing is we're keeping our master note program open because that can be for accredited or non-accredited, and then all accredited investors will be able to invest in this fund.
So for a non-accredited investor who wants to get started with you, they need to know you, meet you somehow. What's the vehicle you use for them to get to know you? Besides being on this call, which is nice, but I imagine it's more formal than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you showed them our website. If they go to chatwithfreedom.com, which is I think if you go to about or contact, that's where that URL is going to lead them. Scroll down and you're going to see calendars, right? So jumping on the calendar of Ben or CJ, or JR there, that's going to establish that relationship. And we want to be able to talk with you 2 to 3 times before offering you an SEC 506B type opportunity. Now, Turnkey doesn't qualify for that. It does not matter. If you just came to us and we didn't know you, you could buy Turnkey. It doesn't matter if you are a private money lender. It does not matter if you invest in master notes. All of those are excluded from this relationship rule. But if we're going to let you come into a syndication or a fund that allows non-accredited investors, those are the times where we have to say, Bill, we need to have a few more conversations, establish that relationship so that we can invite you into this opportunity.
Oh, it sounds ominous. I'm scared. I saw Flip's face like, oh, no, you don't want to do that. No,
learning it all has been a joy.
Well, I get that. You guys have a real passion of this. Just real quick, we're going to do housekeeping again, which is just kind of who are we? This is our Los Angeles County Real Estate Investors Association podcast every Tuesday at 3 p.m. We do this as a live stream. If you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, have questions, put questions in or comments or just say hi. Let us know that you're there. Glad to respond. Either me during the live stream, I'll pass it on to Flip or Dani, or afterwards I'll get to them as well. Feel free. This is the same event we do every second Thursday of the month at the Iman Center in Culver City. We had it last week. We'll have it again in November. But in October, we have our LA Grand Expo, which is October 21st. It's a free event. It's a Saturday, all day 9 to 6, with a great lineup of 12 speakers, including right there in the corner are Dani and Flip. And they'll be among the speakers, as well as I guess you'll have a table there for before and after to meet them and to talk to them about their business. So it's a great day to meet a lot of people in one fell swoop. You'll see 12 speakers. There'll be 70 vendors. I can't be there. I have a conflict. That's why I'm doing these calls to hopefully meet the people and get a chance to find out about all these great ideas before we get there. But that's really kind of where this comes from. Our guests today, Dani and Flip, are the Freedom family.investments is the website, and they have both turnkey rental properties based in the Dayton, Ohio area, and they have funds for investments for people looking for more passive, like traditionally passive income as well. So let's talk a little bit. One of the things that I've learned, as I'm a passive investor, and I've used this podcast and other ways to meet, investments that meet my personal criteria. One of the things I've noticed is that all the successful investors don't just have investments, but they're constantly building and looking for new investors in their programs. They have they all have some sort of active branding, marketing concept. I'm not sure what you would call all that, but it's not just you and saying, hey, we have money for investors, but you have a whole kind of program and system and such and skill. I know your goal was initially to do investments yourself. How does the branding and marketing and scaling of other investors help you build your investment portfolio?
Yeah, so we are really wanting to buy and hold multifamily self-storage, just the larger complexes. That's what we really fell in love with. And so by reaching out and bringing other people in, it allows us to do those bigger investments, right? So everything that we do has been a passion for us achieving our freedom journey and going where we want to go, and then bringing other people along with us, essentially. And so that passion is what kind of built up everything that we're doing right now. We're actually creating a course. We're just in the final edits of it, and it's not meant to be a paid course. That's not what we're about. We're about educating people, giving them content like you're doing here today in this live podcast for free, so that people can understand, hey, I can do this too, and here's how. So for us, it's just about, let's do this together, and because it's just simply more fun.
It is more fun, and I also feel like I can go further with other people, and I get more attention from vendors and investors and such by bringing people with me. That's not my goal, but I know that if I help other people along the way, I get helped as well. So that's the reason why I do this and participate. I don't sell any coaching. This whole program I do is basically just to meet both prospective investments like you guys and investors who might come on this podcast and look for some help.
That's right.
And then, so how did you guys get started on your real estate investing journey? I mean, you guys are pretty far down the path. You have turnkey rentals, you have funds you're doing. You didn't just roll out of bed one day and say, we're going to do all this. You must have built this up one piece at a time, right?
We really did. So I'll let Flip kind of tell the story of, we always tell everybody that there's 3 questions that we wish we would have known and asked when we started. And it was, where do I start? Which path is right for me? And who do I trust? And so those 3 questions have been really, really powerful for us. And the which path is right for me is where Flip's going to start, because when we got into real estate, we weren't sure where to go or what to do. We just went the most logical route.
Yeah, so it was we were making a transition from one job to finding out what we want to do next. And a friend was doing a condominium auction in Austin, Texas, and asked if we wanted to help. And we're like, yeah, you know what, we should get into real estate. And we did what most people, not everybody, what most people do is we went and got our real estate license. And so we got our license, and we were licensed officially in September of 2008. And so it's some might say that's not the best time, but it proved to us that it was the best time, because it took us 8 months to do our first deal, and after that 8 months, that's when we realized we didn't want to really be realtors anymore, and so that's when we started. We looked for someone who would mentor us and to teach us about real estate investing, because we didn't know anything about it. And we found somebody in the Austin, Texas area, and the first thing that we learned was his program was 12 different ways to buy and sell real estate investing, and so we learned 12 ways right away, and we just hit the ground running, because we didn't, he said, I want you to do this, and we said okay, and we went and did it, which is what all coaches and teachers wish everyone would do, but we actually did it, and we loved it, and it was fun to us. Printing flyers and going out in neighborhoods and walking the neighborhoods and putting flyers on doors, that was fun to us, and it wasn't work. It's never really been work for us ever since the start. So that was when we really knew that we knew what we wanted to do at that point. And it's ever since day one, it's always evolved as far as where we are now.
So really, this was just building up, kind of scratching your itch of investments, and then along the way, by helping more people, you got a chance to do more business, sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We've always believed in coaches. We've always believed in team. And luckily these days, YouTube University and these podcasts, sometimes you don't always need to hire, somebody. You can just get the information from the people around you. But building that team gave us accountability. It gave us the joy of working and collaborating with other people who are on our same journey. And so from that point in time of us, walking the neighborhoods, going to find deals and putting flyers on doors, we just continued down the path. And we did short sales, mortgage assignments, sub 2 wraps. Then we went into where did we go from there? We went into wholesaling, yeah. And then we went to turnkey real estate. So we explored all these paths. That's why those questions are so important, because sometimes you don't know which path is right. Once we hit turnkey real estate, we fell in love. That was the passive income piece that we thought, hey, this is how we can build a portfolio for ourselves. This is how we can help other investors do it as well, because we'll just do it for them while we are building ours. And then we landed our first 56-unit apartment complex and went, what? Forget single family. We want to do apartments. And that's really kind of where our wealth journey skyrocketed, because of economies of scale, and being able to work with other people. And people talk a lot about, being able to raise capital and, how have you got to this point where you are today? And it literally was that every day and every step of since 2008, right? We built such great relationships that when we bought that first 56 unit, we were able to raise $1.3 million plus an extra $800,000 within 2 weeks. Wow. Because we had the network and the people who liked us, trust us, and wanted to do deals with us. And I think if more people understood that concept, it's not as scary to take that step every day, because eventually those relationships will get you exactly where you want to go.
Well, it sounds to me like you've just approached this like it's a business, not a hobby, and not a job, right? I think too many people enter real estate with the same job mentality, that they want to make money for their time, and you really can't get ahead. It sounds like you guys had a clear path of a business that you had in mind. And I think the other thing that strikes me about what you said was, I never heard you say this was the easy path. It was the right path for you because you enjoyed it.
Yes.
Like to me, I looked into turnkey rentals. I got involved with a couple, and it's not that they're not good. It's just it doesn't fit me. I need a more scale for my time, and one apartment or one house unit, you have a vacancy, and like your whole life is wrapped up in that one unit. For me, at least,
That's
if I had
right.
a portfolio, that'd be different. So I'd rather be a limited partner in a large apartment building and not hear about it, and that way
That's
it's being
right.
taken care of for me, because I run a business every day. I have a separate business that I'm already running, and is enough. I feel like I'm on a wild ride every day. The last thing I need is more drama with my investments. That's me. And some
Yeah.
people are bored and need the drama of real estate and want to have rental properties and deal with pipes and people and all that. So good for them. And I'm not knocking it. It's just not for me. And
Yeah.
I think the answer I hear from you guys is you found. So where do you start? Now, did you give us the answer? One place to start is come Saturday, October 21st. You're going to see Flip and Dani and 11 other national speakers. You'll see 70 vendors. Many of them would be great mentors or coaches to get started. Flip and Dani would be among them that you should consider. The right path, there'll be about 50 different paths. I mean, you guys cover two prominently, Turnkey and passive income investments in multifamily, and there'll be about another 10 or 20 paths available at that program as well. And then who do you trust? And I always feel like if you can't meet the people, how can you trust them? Right? Like
yes.
I went to Grant Cardone's program in Florida. Now, I'll be honest with you. I love going to Florida. I used to live in Florida. I like the weather. I like the pools. But I went down to meet him before I invested in his fund. And there's something about meeting people in real life that you just can't simulate over Zoom. And so Flip and Dani will be in LA at our program. You have a chance to meet them in person. I think it's great that we're on a Zoom call. It's great that you have other staff to talk to, but better is to see you in person and hear from you and then see you on the 21st as well. So who do you trust? I don't know. That's a difficult answer, but one way is at least meet them in person, I think, as a way for you guys to do that as well. How'd you guys get involved with Lloyd Siegel? Is this your first time with him in his program, or have you been involved before?
Actually, we know Linda. So we have
Got
worked with
it.
Linda for quite a while. We've been on the Real Wealth magazine. We've written articles for her. We've done some podcasts with her.
Nice.
So she's continuously, invited us to different events. And finally, we were like, we can do this one.
Wow. Well, coming to Los Angeles, I think might be a nice time of the year to come out and get a little sunshine while you're out here, maybe. Or you guys make a trip
Absolutely.
of it, or are you just flying in and flying out real quick?
No, we're actually going to come spend a few days. We're in Florida now. Our office is in Ohio, but we have geography freedom. So we live in Florida while our offices are in
Whoa,
Ohio.
got it. What part of Florida?
Davenport, which is just southwest of Orlando, in between
Nice.
Orlando and Lakeland. Yeah.
So I used to live in Boca Raton and Delray, so more South Florida. And I go to a convention every year in Orlando, so I know Orlando pretty well as well. So, and then my best friend moved to Jacksonville, so
Yep.
I don't know. I'm just looking for an excuse to get out there again, I think.
Yeah, I know. I know. We used to both work at Walt Disney World, so we're 30 minutes from the parks, and that's why we ultimately chose to be here. We want to be close to the airport, close to the parks. So at any point in time where we said, hey, we want to take a day off, we had something to do.
Nice. Okay, good. Happiest place on earth. Well, the second happiest place is when you get a check. I got a nice passive check today. It was a little more than I had expected. There's nothing like, I don't know about you guys. I work hard. I get listings. I sell property. I close escrows. All that's great. There's nothing like getting the bank notice that money was deposited in my account to
That's
make
right.
my day.
That's
I had a
right.
tough. I'll be honest with you. I have a deal filled out of escrow. I have a listing I'm trying to get. I just can't get the hook set on. I have another one that's got some problems on. I'm working on, but you get that notice from the bank that you got a nice size deposit. I want to say it's not enough for monthly payment, but it's a good chunk of it. It was like a nice chunk. Nothing like that passive income. So we want to stay on that road. Okay, so I know that you guys also, maybe this isn't your niche, but you come across people who say, I want to do what you've done, but they just can't seem to get started. They're like, I want to do it, but I read 20 books. I've been to 15 seminars. I go listen to the podcast, but I just can't. What do you say to that person to kind of push them by the tush and get them in the pool? How do we get them started?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question, and it comes down to if they're wanting to do if they're wanting to be an active investor or a passive investor. I think there's opportunities for both. As an active investor, my answer would be go JV with somebody else, right? Have that opportunity to feel like somebody else has your back because they have the experience, and you can dip your toes in the water and see if you like it without a whole lot of risk. On the passive side, I would say find an opportunity that's a lower entry point, right? That's going to give you an opportunity. So for example, there's some funds that will give you like monthly distributions or quarterly distributions. It's not necessarily even a multifamily deal. It's just a fund that will allow you to go in and out in 90 days or maybe 1 year. And so having like something like a small $25,000 investment in a semi-liquid opportunity that allows you to just, again, dip your toe into that water and go, do I like this? As soon as you get those checks, and we've seen it happen over and over again, it's like, wow, I happen to have another $500,000 in this pocket. And, it's just, and I love that about the idea of testing the waters and testing the people that you're working with, is just starting small.
I agree 100%. I have, unfortunately, too much in cash. And I recently had a financial review with my wealth advisor, who's my son-in-law. And he was a little frustrated. I had left a bunch in cash. I said I had a couple of deals I was working on. And on the flip side, though, I did invest in something recently with $25,000, which was a small piece. It's nice to be able, it's enough that people appreciate it. It's not so much that I'm going to lose sleep over it. If God forbid the whole thing fell apart, I'd be frustrated. But I have a couple more of those right behind it, once we get some performance, right? And so I do think it's important to have a set of guardrails that you use to protect your money, whatever it is for you, whether it be 25 or 50 or 5 as a minimum, and some criteria of what your minimum is that makes sense for you. I think the other thing is, personally, I try to make strategic investments that complement my real estate business. So if it's something that's related, I'm much more anxious to make the investment than if it's something disparate or different. And I think for everybody else, you have to think about, why am I making this investment? Is it near, if it's in Ohio, do I have family in Ohio that I want to go visit? All of a sudden that can be tax deductible. Or if it's and for me in Florida, one reason why I invest in Florida is anytime I go to Florida, it's tax deductible. I'm going to look at my real estate investment. So it's important to find those synergies in your business as well.
That's right.
To people who have look at the market and say, oh my gosh, we're headed to recession, everything's going to fall apart. I don't want to be the last person to invest good money before things fall apart. I'm Chicken Little and the world's coming to an end. What do you say to that person? I just say, then don't invest. I'm not in the business, so I don't really care. What do you say?
Yeah. I agree with that. You have to be comfortable with whatever it is that you're doing. So make your own decision. I will say in the rooms that I get into, I believe in Warren Buffett's quote, be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. I am taking advantage of the opportunities in this market because the competition is scarce. It is harder to find a deal in today's market. We are underwriting more deals than we ever have before to get a good deal, but the competition is not there. And I truly believe that any down market or any market where there are fearful people, that's when the most millionaires and billionaires are ultimately made, because they've been through market cycles and aren't afraid to continue underwriting and continue investing throughout the time as the market picks back up. But you have to be comfortable.
It's so true. As a real estate broker, my focus is probate real estate. It's definitely twice as hard to get listings as it was a year or two ago. But they're more valuable because it's going to sell. I mean, if they're motivated and have to price it right, it's going to sell. That's and right. Having a deal that has to sell is worth more than ever before if you run your business properly. And I can see the same with you guys as investors, and me too. I found a great investment recently that I put some money into because why? It's hard to find a good one, but if you find a good one that's going to cash flow in today's market, you have a deal that's going to cash flow. Poof. Sitting pretty, that's really where you want to be. So I think you're right on that. This is the time, and frankly, I think the best time in my career to hunker down and take advantage of those opportunities. Okay, well, just real quick housekeeping again. We'll wrap up real fast. This is the LA County Real Estate Investors Association podcast. We do this every Tuesday at 3 p.m. LAREIC.com is the website if you want to join in. We meet in person every second Thursday of the month. We did last Thursday, and then upcoming October 21st is the LA Grand Expo at the Iman Center. Saturday all day, 9 to 6. It's free. I'd say free parking, but it's going to be a mob scene. So park nearby. There's restaurants nearby and walk in or whatever. Love to have you there. But you'll notice in the bottom right, the two best looking people in the whole picture on the bottom right are Flip, the eye candy, and his smart and helpful wife, Dani, are there in the bottom right. But there are 12 different. They're actually, they count as one. There's 12 different presentations of national speakers. So it's a chance to really learn the whole breadth, I think, of real estate, different types of products, different types of paths, different people that you can trust, as Dani said, to get started. So it's a great opportunity to kind of knock a bunch out at once. And then as well, you have a chance to meet Dani and Flip. They are freedomfamily.investments, and that's their picture there. And they do both turnkeys and passive investments through funds. If you're interested in contacting them, right there on the website, you can set up a time and learn more about their turnkey properties or their investment funds if you're interested in doing that. Flip and Dani, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to see you on the 21st, but I know I've enjoyed meeting you and I enjoyed this call here today. I think you guys are doing a great service for our customers. Any last parting words before we wrap up?
No, not at all. I would say my parting word is I hope you're going to be at the event. Because we love meeting people, we love helping and just encouraging those that are just getting started. It's one of our favorite things to do. It gives us energy because we remember being on that path. So we're so grateful that we're be able to be on your show, Bill.
Well, thanks. I think it's so important that if you're going to get started, meet people in person. I think Zoom calls are great. I do a lot of business online, but there's no substitute when you have that personal relationship, especially when you're transforming from a non-investor to an investor, or you're trying to go from hand to mouth to building wealth for you and your family. You need somebody to help you on that path. And I think Flip and Dani are great people to assist you. So guys, thank you so much for your time today. We look forward to speaking again soon.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.